All right, if you got kids considering where to go to school, this video is for you. Recently, I joined in a conversation in a coffee shop. Some folks were talking about where their kids were applying to go to school. Now, we live in Northern Virginia, and a lot of the kids around here are considering going to SEC football schools or just big football schools across the country. Names like Alabama, Tennessee, Clemson, Penn State, Wisconsin, they all come up on a consistent basis. And, these are out-of-state schools, which tend to cost more than our in-state options. And we've got great in-state options here in Virginia. So I think it's an interesting conversation to be having with your kids. And what I suggested, because, funding is not unlimited for a lot of families. We have to consider this, and we also don't want to burden our kids with a large amount of debt when they come out. We want them to hit the ground running, be financially responsible, and ready to start in their life right away. So what I suggested is, you kind of lay out the cost for the competing universities, right? So the in-state option versus the out-of-state option that they have their heart set on, compare it, show them the numbers, show them how it works, and how difficult or easy it might be to pay back, okay? And you can leverage technology to your benefit in this conversation. I mean, you can do it the old-fashioned way with a spreadsheet, pen and paper, but if you got a tool like this, I've created a sample client. This family's got a 15-year-old daughter. She's gonna go to school in a few years. She's considering an in-state option, Virginia Tech University, great university, okay? Currently, the total cost $37,182 for tuition. That includes, that's in-state with tuition, room and board, a bunch of other expenses built on that. It's actually gotten a little pricey, but that's kind of our estimate for Virginia Tech. So we're going to start there and kind of show the expense within our education module. This family also has a 529 they've been saving in for, a number of years, and they're still contributing a little bit to it on an annual basis. So if we plug all that information in, the cost versus what we have saved, what we're committed to, providing support with, this is kind of what you have. We're not going to go above and beyond this. You're responsible for anything, any expense beyond what we have funding for. And then we look at the cost, right? So the projected total cost over 4 years at Virginia Tech would be $173,000. Okay. And based on what we have in a 529, we've got 75% of that covered. We've got a funding shortfall that you're gonna have to pay back when you graduate, $43,591. Okay. You can also show, where do those numbers come from? Right here they are, the education costs over the 4 years. Compare that against our 529 funding, the shortfall in the senior year. So that's kind of how we get to this number. Okay. So that's what you're looking at in terms of paying back when you come out. You can get a loan for this. We know how that's all structured. We're gonna talk about that in a few minutes, but I want to compare that against Cher's dream college. So she decides she wants to go to Georgia and watch football games there and just have a great experience and get a good education all at the same time. So we find the University of Georgia in our tool here. We pull up the out-of-state tuition. It's actually not terrible, right? It's about $10,000 more. If you're looking at private universities or some of the other big names, this could be significantly more. So this isn't a bad option. So we'll plug this into our system, and then we'll go back to our education model with the updated numbers. And now we can see how things change. Instead of having 75% of our goal covered, we've got 57% of our goal covered. Instead of having a 43% shortfall, now we're responsible for almost $94,000 when she graduates from school and is gonna have to pay that back. Okay, so that's a big difference, $50,000 in total cost. And we can kind of look at the same numbers over here, how that breaks out on an annual basis compared against our 529 funding. And then the shortfall we can see in the junior and the senior year here. Okay, so that's kind of what things look like. So and then I think really probably the most valuable part of this conversation comes down to start talking about how you're going to fund this, how much money you think you might make when you graduate, which can be hard for kids to figure out. But start talking about if you have to pay back $93,000, pick a reasonable time period, a 10-year payback period, right? If you're doing that over 10 years, that's $9,000 a year. How do you think that might impact your ability to do some of the other things you're going to want to do as a young professional, as a young person? Okay, so those are kind of the conversations you have to have. Compare that against $43,000 or whatever the in-state tuition is. You're talking about a big difference, $4,000 a year going to this goal versus $9,000. Okay, and I know this is just simple math. There's a lot of interest and other things you have to take into consideration, but this could be a really helpful way to create some financial literacy, kind of lay that foundation for kids to start understanding money and making good choices. Okay. All right. So I hope you found this useful. If you have, would love if you'd give us a like and subscribe and share with a friend. And please reach out if you have questions. This is what we do. We build custom financial plans and manage investments. So would love to be a resource for you. Until next time.